Hello, my regulars, and welcome new listeners to the Reese on the Regular podcast. Today's guest is my friend Meg.
Hello, everyone. My name is Meghan Cafferky. I am 22. I'm from Medford, Massachusetts, and I'm so excited to be here today with Reese.
It's so exciting to have you on here. I've been wanting to do a podcast with you for so long, so we finally got it together. Today, we're talking about social confidence and being the best version of yourself. A lot of people walk into this podcast studio and they get all nervous. People watch the podcast and they're like, how do you even do that? And I wish I could just shine my social confidence on everyone. Meg knows a lot about it as well. Today, we're just going to give you guys some tips on how to better yourselves. I feel like this episode is especially helpful for people in their 20s from experience, but I think it'll benefit everyone. Why do you feel like it can be especially difficult to make friends in your 20s?
I feel like post-graduating and just like coming out into the world, everyone's in a different walk of life in your 20s, and we're all just doing different things. It can be hard to meet new people and put yourself out there, especially when you're so used to being in school for so long and meeting like-minded people who are in the same space as you. You know, it's only as hard as you make it. If you put yourself out there and you're willing to try, you give yourself the chance, then you can definitely make it happen.
So true. And I feel like another big part of it is just how, at least in my experience, how when you get to this age, you tend to overthink things a little bit differently than when you were younger and you just kind of like ran around with whoever was around. I feel like it becomes like a stressful thing to make friends at this age where you feel like you need to be socially accepted by everyone and there's all these standards. So I feel like, yeah, just taking it easy on yourself and kind of recognizing like who the true people are out there is kind of the best advice you can give at this age.
Putting your best foot forward and just being authentic to yourself. Surrounding yourself with people who make you feel good and have like-minded goals and ambitions and want the best for you is really something that when it comes to making friends, you want to make sure you surround yourself with those people.
Right. I feel like the like-minded goals thing is so true. And I feel like I spoke about this a little bit on one of my episodes about just like relationships in general. But it's really hard to like be able to do the things that you aspire to do if you have friends who don't have like-minded goals, because they'll always not really understand why you put your energy towards certain things. And when you have friends who do, it's like they cheer you on that much more. So I feel like some of the best friends that I have are just, you know, motivated and have goals like I do. And so I think that really helps, especially in your 20s, keeping yourself motivated when the world is hard, you know?
Yes, for sure. I feel like me and my friends, some of my closest friends, we're all doing completely different things and we are all at such different places in our life. But at the end of the day, when you have people that support you, even if they have different goals, that's really important.
And just knowing that you guys are all doing something that you're passionate about, like that alone is like a like-minded goal.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be like, oh, you're all, you know, working at a bank or you're all here. Like you guys are all doing things, but you're all motivated people. So that's why you guys are so supportive of each other.
Yes,
you know?
Exactly. And being able to come together and you know, find things that we do have in common, whether it's going to the gym or going for coffee or just catching up, even if we all have such a different schedule, it's great.
Yeah, and you make the time for it when it's like worth it. Like me and my friends try to go to the gym together all the time and we like squeeze it in wherever we can because it's just so enjoyable and it's more motivating sometimes to go with someone because you both push each other. And then same with like coffee, like going on a date with your friend, like it's just more enjoyable sometimes. They always say you'll make time for the things that you want, and it's true.
And I feel like there's always such a pressure to always be going out or doing something like big and like, you know, going on a trip or whatever it may be. And I feel like that's great and I love doing those things, but some of my best quality time is literally just doing things that I would already do alone, whether it's grocery shopping or going to the gym or grabbing a coffee with a friend. And
it's so true.
You don't even need like a social battery for those sorts of things.
That's what I was just thinking.
It just comes naturally,
right?
And it's the best time.
Yeah, because sometimes when you have to like, when you feel that need, like, oh, I need to like please this person, like, and like be like entertaining them at all times, it's not it's stressful. Like I love the friends that can just come over and we can just be like doing our own thing and just enjoy each other's company, because that's what it's really about. I feel like in your 20s, like you kind of go out to a bar and you have all these like small talk like conversations with people, and from that it's just like you don't really see that person ever again, or you just see them and you say hey. Like what tips do you have for building connections with people that are like beyond those surface level interactions that we're having all the time?
That is a huge thing. Like small talk can be so, it can be enjoyable sometimes, but most times I'm just like, why? What are we talking about?
What are we accomplishing? You know?
But I definitely think it's somewhere to start, and, you know, finding common ground with people that, you know, things that you're passionate about and things that you are working towards. When you're able to connect with people about things that you're passionate about, then I think that's a great place to start. And then from there, you know, some people you only see once in a month or, you know, once every couple of months. But when you do see each other, you know, making that connection and just putting in the effort to really get to know somebody. And I think a lot of times people just want someone to listen to them.
Yes.
I know I love to yap, and I feel like, you know, if you just listen to people, people will tell you who they are. People will tell you what they love and what they're passionate about. Just listen to people and be willing to be like the set of ears for them. You don't even have to say anything.
Everyone loves to talk about themselves. Like, how could you not? So sometimes that's really all it is. And I feel like I read about this somewhere, like some book that was kind of talking on that point, and it just said like taking a genuine interest in a person is like really all it takes to take it from like a surface level interaction to making them feel like they're heard and it meant so much to them. And you know, you don't need to be talking about anything that extravagant, but sometimes it's just like being someone they can vent to.
Yes, exactly. And just taking like those subtle notes, you know, if you notice that somebody really loves something, either try to talk about it or, you know, try to plan something that you can involve, whether it's like an activity that somebody really loves or, you know, getting them something special. I don't know.
It means a lot. Yeah.
Just like showing up for people in ways that they might not even think of, but really does mean a lot to people when you show up for them in like little ways that don't seem like so huge in the moment, but it really does.
Yeah. And then that reflects on you too. Like you feel good about doing that because their positive reaction is like, wow, like that was such a simple little thing, but it just meant so much to them. So I feel like that is like, if you need a step, like a small tip to take, that's something that like we can all be doing. Do you have any go-to conversation starters that can avoid that small talk? Because I feel like obviously, let's bring it back to the bar scene. Like people come up to you, they're like, oh, like what major are you? Like what grade are you in? How old are you? You know, that gets old after a while. So like, what's your go-to opener?
Yes, I feel like for me, I'm always like down to talk about travel. I always have either a trip planned or a trip that like brought me a whole new experience or perspective on something. You know, I didn't go to school after high school. I didn't go to college. So I feel like that is like constantly something our age that people are like, oh, what are you in school for? Right. Or what did you do in school? And I'm like, well, I didn't go to school, but I have done this. You know? Always having something to look forward to and sharing, whether it's a past experience or something that you're looking forward to.
Something that you're passionate about, because like right off the bat, that can kind of avoid like the small talk that's going to get nowhere, because if you can start a conversation with someone and they also like have a passion in that, then that's going to just take that conversation to such a deeper level. Like when people come up to me and say anything about travel, like they could just mention the smallest thing and I'm like, oh, I went abroad. I went abroad. Yes. And I start talking about it for hours. And I love when I talk with people about travel, because it's just like, it was such a big moment and experience in my life. And it's something I want to continue to do in the future. And that is such a much more meaningful conversation than like, so what do you do for a living? You know, like it takes it beyond that.
I feel like usually you can just feel people's energy. I am like big on reading people's energy and just like, you know, I'll give what people give me. I talk a lot about travel with my friends and family and stuff. And it's like, there's so many places in the world. There's so many different experiences that you can do. So I feel like it's like such a open topic that can really lead to so many different things.
I want to ask more about the reading people's energy, because that's interesting to me. And I feel like it's something I've been pretty good at in terms of like picking up on people pretty easily. How do you feel like that has kind of like impacted the way that you are when it comes to like social confidence?
It really starts like with yourself. I feel like, you know, being self-aware and like taking the time at the end of the day to reflect on your emotions and just like how your day was, where you're at in life is huge. And then being able to, you know, pick up on people's energy, whether it's their body language or just the things they say, it really can tell you a lot about a person, and it can lead the conversation, you know? Like when people are more outgoing, then I'm very outgoing myself.
Yes.
So I feel like I work well with that. But when people are more, you know, shy and reserved, I would say I sometimes like fill in the space.
Again, it's kind of like a mirroring aspect of like when you do something good for someone and they respond positively, like that also is like positive for you. But same thing with like just interactions. Like if someone is super bubbly and fun, like you automatically turn it up a level. Whereas sometimes you have to work with some people a little bit and fill in that gap, especially if you're the one that's like a little bit more of an extrovert compared to them.
Everyone's different. We all have our own ways that we like to operate.
Of course.
Don't take things personally. If somebody seems like more reserved, that just may be them. If somebody comes off in like a rude or just a way that you are like, why would they say that? Just sit with yourself. Don't take things personally, and just understand that like we're all in our own head. We're all overthinking, and give yourself grace. You know, like I promise you, nobody is overthinking what you had to say at dinner tonight. Like,
right.
You might be for a few minutes, but give yourself grace. It's all going to be okay. Nobody is thinking about you. We're all like in our own heads.
In our own heads.
What about our own day and what we're doing.
This is like a revolving topic on so many of my episodes of just like, we overthink so much and everyone's really just in their own heads. And I feel like it's not even just, like if someone comes off rude, it might not even be like, like that's their character. They could just be having a bad day, you know? So you really can't be quick to judge people either because, you know, I know some days where people want to talk to me and I'm just not in the mood. That's not always how I am. So it's tough. It's a balance.
Yeah. And like, just understand, like, a lot of things have nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
Like, if somebody is coming off in, like, a negative way, that has to do with them. It, like, they don't mean anything to you.
You would know if it did mean anything to you, you know?
Exactly.
If you did something to piss them off, like, of course it's to you. But normally, no, you know, everyone's in their own head. Do you feel like sometimes it's a little bit more difficult for you to have those conversation starters when you're, like, in a room full of strangers, or do you feel like it's kind of easy for you?
I feel like I could literally talk to a tree.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. I feel like it doesn't matter who it is. I am always like the most talkative person in the room, the loudest person in the room. And sometimes it's easier for me to have conversations with strangers because, you know, you don't have this whole understanding of how they work and what they're thinking. Don't get me wrong. Like, I can talk to my friends all day long, but I can also stand in a room full of strangers and, you know, make friends and just find things that we want to talk about. That's
so me too. But I feel like it's not a lot of people. That can be tough for a lot of people. Do you have any tips for, I don't know if there ever was a time where you were more reserved, of just like how you can walk into a room and feel confident with strangers, essentially?
For sure. I definitely, when I was younger, used to struggle a lot with confidence and just like constantly being my worst critic. And I feel like just taking the time to like heal, even if there's things that I had no idea that I needed healing, like just being kind to yourself and showing up for yourself, whether it's when you look in the mirror when you wake up in the morning and not being like, oh, I need to change this, or, you know, I wish I had this. You know, I think it's hard constantly being like chronically online, seeing so many people put their best foot forward on social media and then constantly like comparing yourself. But you have to understand at the end of the day, you know, it's your life. It's what you make of it. If you just give yourself that grace and take the chance on yourself, it goes a long way. And, you know, you're not always going to feel confident. Some days I struggle with confidence and I'm like, oh, I don't like what I'm, you know, looking like
don't
today,
we all,
or
know?
Whatever it may be, whether it's doing your makeup or your hair or putting on an outfit that you feel confident in. That goes a long way. And just walking into a room, even if you aren't confident, just fake it until you make it. That is literally what has gotten me to where I am today, because I never was confident before. Just telling yourself, I'm beautiful, I am this, like making the affirmations.
The affirmations are real.
They go so far. And soon enough, you'll start to believe it. Fake it till you make it. Confidence is like one of those things. You will have no idea if people are actually confident or if it comes from an ingenuine place. Hold your shoulders high, smile. Smiling goes a long way. Yeah, just put your best foot forward.
Right. And I feel like sometimes, you see someone walk into a room and you say to yourself, oh, like, I wish I could be as confident as they are. But really, it's like, you don't really know if they're faking it till they make it. You also aren't giving yourself the chance to just fake it till you make it. So it goes both ways of like, you just got to kind of jump out of your comfort zone. And I know it's like easier said than done for some people, but I feel like that's kind of the way a lot of people do go about it. And it looks really simple on the outside.
Yeah, I would say it definitely is something that's easier said than done. But at the end of the day, putting yourself in situations that make you uncomfortable is where the growth happens. Whether it's going on a trip by yourself or going to a bar by yourself. I will literally go to any place by myself.
Yes.
I don't care where it is. And my friends are like, you're so crazy going to a bar, having dinner by yourself. No, I'm not. Like if nobody else is going to go with me, I'm going to go by myself.
Yeah, I'm not going to
miss out on life.
that.
Exactly.
Oh my God. We're so similar. Seriously. My friends say the same thing. They're like, what are you doing? Like, what? I'm like, why not?
Exactly.
Why not is literally like the phrase of this year for me. Like, why not? Just do it.
Yes, I love it.
I think the biggest thing with like coming out and being so confident is that sometimes it can be really draining. Do you have any tips, especially for introverts, to manage their energy levels when they're trying to, branch out into these social situations, and it just honestly can be overwhelming?
I would say that I definitely come off as a bit more extroverted, but I can definitely understand when like putting yourself out there or meeting new people, walking into a room full of strangers can definitely be super intimidating. And I think just taking a few moments, whether it's before I go out or while I'm out, just to myself, whether it's in the car or in the Uber before, just telling myself that I'm going to have a good time and just reassuring myself. But also like while I'm out, if I need a few minutes, I'm going to run away.
Yes, you're going to go in the bathroom and just be like breathing with yourself
bestie,
for a minute.
Let's go to the bathroom and debrief for a second.
That's what the bathroom trips are for. Like
yes,
to
for
just
sure.
debrief and just breathe. And I feel like sometimes the days where I don't give myself enough like time to like be with myself, by the end of the day, I always am just like, oh, my social battery is done. And you never want to get to that point where you like genuinely feel like you can't be with people. Like it needs to be a balance throughout the day where you're managing that energy in a
Yes, it's definitely so important to find balance, whether it's, you're going out and meeting a bunch of different new people, maybe inviting a friend that you're already familiar with, or just taking a few minutes and like separating yourself from the conversation. It's important to set boundaries and to know when you need a minute for yourself, even just to walk away if it's like a party or something, take a few minutes outside. I'm like the friend that everyone's always like, where did she go? And I'm like, guys, I just need a few minutes to separate myself. It can be a lot, like being in a room full of strangers and just meeting so many new people and having so many different people's energy. Energy is infectious. And sometimes when you're surrounding yourself with new people, you might not work well with them. And, not everyone is going to be your people. So just knowing when to take the time for yourself and just being able to separate yourself, being able to walk away if a conversation isn't going in a direction that you want it to. I think it's super important.
Yeah. And I think honestly, this goes for both like introverted and extroverted people, because for introverts, I feel like that energy drain comes from them not really being used to it. And it's like a lot of nerves that come from being in a social situation where they're surrounded by strangers. So that alone can be draining. Whereas for an extrovert, it's like we do the most. We are talking and talking all day. And so you finally stop and you're like, wow, like I'm drained. Yeah. So I feel like it really goes both ways of, taking that time for yourself to just reset.
Yes. And I work in the restaurant industry. I'm a server. So I feel like that for me has really helped develop like this whole side of my confidence and my personality where, I've been put in situations where I might not like how somebody's speaking to me, or I might be having a bad day, but I still have to show up and put my best foot forward. Being able to set boundaries is so important. I used to struggle so much with people pleasing and saying no to people. And, someone wants you to go out, always like just saying yes just for the fun of it, but
Right.
being able to say no, I'm going to take the night and just chill. That's not what I want to do today.
The guilt gets to them, and then you end up not doing what you truly want to do, and then you go and you please everyone else, but you don't have a good time. And I think a lot of that really does come from just like life experiences, jobs as well, of like being able to build up social confidence in general. I feel like in jobs where you're constantly talking with people, like I do sales, I get the mean people, I get the nice people. And so you learn a lot about how to talk to people. And I feel like without experiences like those, it can be tough to develop that. I think it doesn't always have to just be in the workplace either, though. I think like going on a trip or, you know, just anything that kind of brings you out into the world with those like people that you're not always surrounded with is definitely a big learning lesson for talking to people.
Yes. Yeah. I think definitely like working in the service industry has helped so much, but beyond that, like going on trips and putting yourself in situations where you're uncomfortable and you have no idea what you're going to do today and what your plan is, and then just going out into the world and, you know, being positive and confident and seeing where life takes you, honestly, is like such a beautiful thing. I don't know, some of the best times I've ever had are with complete strangers that I had no idea that I was going to meet, you know?
Yeah, it's like the things that you don't plan for, the unexpected things that turn out to be the best things, because when you have all these expectations of how things are going to go and they don't go the way you want them to go, then you never look back on that with a positive look. Yeah, some of the best times I've had have been with like people I just met. Like some of my closest friends are people I met unexpectedly and recent. And so it's just like crazy how quickly you can grow close to a person that was once a stranger, you know?
For sure. Yes, everyone like out there in the world, they're a stranger, but you know, they could be your next best friend.
Exactly. You haven't given them the chance. It's hard because growing up, like I said in the beginning, like it's not so much of like a thought process. You don't overthink it so much. So you meet all these people growing up and you probably look back and you can't really remember like how that process went. But now it's like going about and meeting someone can be so much more scary. And sometimes you just like stay reserved from that because you're like, all right, I already have my people. But there's so many more people in the world to meet. So you really can't hold yourself back from that.
Yes. And I think it's so beautiful to just take it at your own pace, you know, especially like I love traveling by myself. And when I'm on a solo trip, like I'll plan out my day as I go along, you know, starting conversation with random people, whether you're at a cafe for breakfast or just asking someone their recommendations for wherever you're at.
People get so excited because like we said, people love to talk about themselves, talk about things they know. So that kind of like brings the light out of them and then it shines on you. And so I think sometimes it can just be more exciting talking to strangers as long as they're like safe. But yeah, I think that that's really the best way to kind of break out of your shell and kind of realize like it's really not that serious. Like I'm a person, they're a person, and just kind of learn more about yourself.
Yes. Yeah. We're all going through our own things.
We are.
We all have stuff going on in our lives. Whether you make somebody else's day or you make your own day, like it's just so important to show up authentically and just have like a positive mindset. I think your mindset is just so important when it comes to like looking at the world.
It is, yeah.
Yes, romanticize your life.
Romanticize your life. Seriously, it works. The affirmations, it's all what you tell yourself. People can kind of reserve themselves and just kind of sit back and be the audience, is because sometimes they have this fear that they're going to say the wrong thing or people are going to judge them, because let's be real, there's a lot of judgmental people out there. How do you feel like you've kind of steered around that in terms of just like being able to speak your mind and not really having that fear?
I feel like as somebody who is usually leading the conversation or the loudest in the room, there has been moments where I've said the wrong thing, but you just have to give yourself grace. You know, I promise you that nobody else is sitting at home thinking about what you said earlier today.
Right.
You know, it's like everyone is in their own head. Just think of that. Like you may be overthinking something, but everyone else is overthinking their own thing. And, you know, if you sit and beat yourself up over something, then you're only putting yourself in a position to be less confident. And, you know, the more you sit and tell yourself you said the wrong thing, or, you know, the more you beat yourself up, you're just making it harder for yourself. As long as you weren't mean or had like bad intentions with what you were saying, I feel like it's no big deal. And if somebody is going to sit and criticize you because the words came out the wrong way or you might have misspoke, that says more about them, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, it doesn't really matter, you know?
For me, like I wouldn't really want to surround myself with people who are going to be judgmental and critical either. So as long as I know I'm like speaking what I truly believe in and not crossing a line, I'm comfortable with doing that and knowing that the people that truly are my friends or family or whatever it may be are going to support what I have to say. And even if they don't really believe in it in the same way, they're going to understand, you know, where I'm coming from. So I feel like, yeah, you can't really have that fear your whole life of like, oh, people are going to judge me, so I'm just going to kind of sit back and watch, because honestly, like the people who you think are going to judge you might turn out to be the people who are going to root for you and support you and kind of stand with that opinion. This doesn't even need to be anything like super opinionated, but I just feel like some people are afraid of just, oh, someone's going to judge the way I speak or the way I look or,
for sure,
you know, it goes beyond that.
So many people struggle with anxiety, and being present and just allowing yourself to be in the current moment, not thinking about what was said in the past or, you know, what you did in the past, and not thinking about the future. I know it's easier said than done, but it's one of those things, just taking the time to be present, even if you don't have something to contribute in the conversation. Just sitting there and listening and asking people questions about what they're passionate about and what they have to say goes a long way.
Yeah. And I do agree that like this is all easier said than done, but I feel like the part that's hard is getting to the point where you can look back and say, no, it is easy. Like it's very easy once you become confident in yourself and you look back and you realize how much you overthought things. But yeah, when you are still stuck in that place where it's easier said than done, it's like nothing's going to change unless you take that first step.
Yeah, you have to take the chance on yourself. You know, it's your life. You're in charge. Yes, you might have certain setbacks or whatever it may be, but you can do anything you put your mind to. And I used to sit and be my worst critic and always be overthinking these things that did not even matter. And then one day, I don't know where it came out of, but I was just like, I'm done being so hard on myself. I am done being my biggest critic, always wishing for something else. And I can't change my body. I can't change my face. I can't change who I am, where I'm from, whatever it may be. But I can change the future and, you know, what I want for myself. You can either harp on something that you can beat the dead horse, or you can change your ways, whether it's listening to a podcast or surrounding yourself with more like-minded people. There's different ways that you can put yourself out there and show up for yourself, and it really goes a long way.
Yeah, I think people do harp on it a lot, and I feel like people are always looking into the past, and really you just have to look forward, and you just have to be committed to like who you want to become, because looking back isn't going to change anything. And for some people it's like it comes out of nowhere, this like spark of motivation. For others it's like they went through something that caused them to be like, okay, like it's time to better myself. But yeah, I mean, you just got to find that spark wherever it is. I want to get into like quantity versus quality of friends, because I think that's a big thing a lot of people struggle with. And I'm curious like how you personally go about deciding like what friendships or relationships in your life are worth investing that time and energy into, because like we talked about, it can be very draining, and you also are very well at like reading people's energy. So kind of what's your thought process with like devoting your energy into those relationships?
I feel like for me, I just try to sit with myself after, you know, if I've met somebody new or even just hanging out with friends that I've known for a really long time. People will tell you exactly who they are. If you are sitting after hanging out with someone like, I don't know, I don't feel good about that.
Yeah.
Like, then that says something. And, you know, you really have to follow your intuition. People will always remember how you made them feel. And I always remember how other people will make me feel. And, you know, when I walk into a room and I don't feel appreciated or loved or cared for by certain people, then I definitely do take note. You know, it's so important to be able to recognize when somebody doesn't make you feel good about yourself, whether it's a little comment that they made and they might not have even meant it, but subconsciously, like, you know, stuff like that matters, and what people say matters. So I think it's definitely important to just sit with yourself and be able to recognize what you're feeling.
For me, something I've been working on is like trusting my intuition for sure, because it's tough. Like a gut feeling is like a whisper, but then everything else around you is so loud that you really need to tune into that. And sometimes you want to make someone seem better than they are because you see the best in people.
Yes.
But sometimes the best just isn't, it's not there. And so you need to be honest with yourself, especially because building relationships can be so draining of like, okay, where do I really want to dedicate my time? You know, it's the worst when you put your time towards someone that really doesn't have the best intentions for you. And if it's not, you know, a back and forth relationship like that. So I think really just like trusting that intuition, that gut instinct.
For sure. And I think because we more often than not are overthinking things, I think it can be very helpful to get like another perspective. For me, I always go to my best friend and we can talk about something for like 5 hours on end. Like, you know, we can depict every single part of the situation and just having another perspective, because sometimes you really do just get too much into your head and it really wasn't that deep.
Do you feel like personally for you, you've valued like quantity of friends or value quality, or is it kind of like a balance in terms of that?
I definitely think it is good to have a balance. I mean, there's people that are going to be there in your life just for the good times and, you know, to go out and have fun. And that can be great. But at the end of the day, you need to have your people that are always going to be there for you, whether it's celebrating you and your accomplishments or being there for a loss or whatever it may be. Some people may not be able to show up for you in the ways that you need them to because they aren't, you know, fully able to show up for themselves.
Right.
Even if somebody isn't able to be there for you when you feel like you need them, maybe they're struggling with something. You know, you never know what people are going through, and don't take things as personally. You know, if it does affect you when somebody isn't there for you, being able to communicate these things is super important. Yeah, just like being open with people. I feel like sometimes, you know, we can be super like critical of others, just the same way we can be of ourselves. But, you know, at the end of the day, we're all just living for the
We
first
are.
time. And that grace that you give to yourself, you need to extend that for other people as well.
Yeah. I think in terms of like that, giving that energy out again, like I feel like for the quality versus quantity, like I think that you should be able to determine like what friends of yours are worth giving that energy to, and that's the quality. But I don't think there's anything wrong with quantity either. You know, the people who are there for a good time, because you want to have a positive reputation as well in terms of like being welcoming to others, but you just can't put all your energy into those types of friendships. So I think for me, I've always focused on the quality when it comes to like who I really put my time into and can trust and would go to first. But that doesn't mean to say that I've kind of like knocked all my other friends out of the water. Like I still keep them close, but it's more about like where I'm putting my energy for me.
For sure. And I feel like as long as you go into situations with a good heart and you have good intentions, somebody might not match your energy and they might not give back what you gave to them. But what harm does that do for you? You know, they might not show up for you, but I feel good when I show up for other people. And even if it's not reciprocated, what do you have to lose by giving someone your love, you know?
Right. Sometimes friends are kind of just there to go out and party with. And I feel like just from like getting to know you, like I feel like we're both kind of the life of the party when it comes to like going out and stuff. Yes. I wonder this too, like, is this something that you feel like is learned, or is it more about like tapping into your natural energy and just positive attitude that you have?
I feel like it's definitely tapping into your natural energy, you know, following what feels good to you. You might not be somebody who likes to go out and party, and that's fine. You know, you don't have to be that way just because your friends might be that way. You know, you have to stay true to yourself and what feels good to you. But I definitely think, you know, being willing to take the chance on yourself and try something new goes a long way.
Yeah. And I think like the quote life of the party is like, you don't need to be at a party or at a bar or a nightclub. Like you could be at the dinner table with like friends and family that came over and just like being a positive person. So I think that gets kind of like misconstrued in a way. But I also am curious, like, how do you feel like people can leave a lasting impression like that without feeling like they have to be like the center of attention or be, you know, too overbearing in situations?
If you think something positive about someone, whether it's a compliment or, you know, you're wondering something, just say how you feel. And, you know, I am always the type to, if I have something to say to someone like, oh, I love your nails or whatever it is, I'm always going to say that because people want to feel good about themselves. And if you can help them, they'll remember how you made them feel. And it goes a long way. You know, you don't have to be involved in big conversations or anything like that. If you just say something small, you know, it goes a long way.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is about like pulling other people in, especially those who like feel less comfortable, but not in a way that's overdoing it, can be a good way to not feel like you're always the center of attention. It's almost like if we were to compare this to like, oh, I'm up on stage singing with this microphone, like all by myself hogging the stage, versus if I like pointed over to you and I'm like, all right, like go ahead, like sing the song, you know, like you can be that center of attention, but in a way that doesn't feel like you're being selfish, I guess is the word. Encouraging other people and being kind of like an inspiration for other people to be a part of that is how you can leave a lasting impression, but not like overdo it in a way.
I feel like so many times, like especially being in the restaurant industry, you'll meet coworkers and you want to go out with people and build these connections at work and stuff. You have to be able to recognize and separate yourself from the people that are just there to have a good time and the people that genuinely want the best for you. Especially starting out, you want to, you know, meet new people and create these relationships with your coworkers and have a good time, of course, but it's very important to separate yourself. Like, okay, why are we drinking on a Tuesday and staying out till 2 a.m?
Yes.
You know, like be able to ground yourself and reflect back and be like, okay, maybe these people are just there for a good time and that's great. We can have a good time, but you have to be able to find a balance in having a good time and working towards your goals and being productive and stuff like that.
Yeah. And I feel like that is something that a lot of people in that type of workspace struggle with, like a workspace where it is a lot of like a social aspect to it. But that even definitely goes beyond the workplace too, just in life of like knowing that balance.
Yes, for sure. And I feel like within this past year, I've really taken the time to get to know myself better on like a basis of, okay, I can go out and, you know, be at the club, but I don't need to have a drink, you know?
Yeah.
I don't need to constantly be, you know, let's do shots or whatever it may be. Like, you need to be able to be present in those types of situations. You know, in the restaurant industry, I feel like a lot of people struggle with drinking and it can be a huge thing. And knowing when to separate yourself and just reflecting on, you know, am I being safe? Am I doing things that are bettering myself, or is this constantly sort of just like a self-depreciating habit?
Yeah, I think there's a time and place for it, of course. Like there's nights where you're going to want to go out and have a drink, but it's about being able to have that balance. You know, that shouldn't have to be something you do every night in order to have a fun time. All right. And wrapping all of this up, I feel like we had a lot of overlap, but it is a very like similar concept of just trusting your intuition, putting out your best self. And so just to kind of wrap it up, what would be the biggest piece of advice that you'd give to listeners on, you know, building up their social confidence if that's what they're looking to do?
I would say just be kind to yourself.
Yeah.
You know, sit with yourself and give yourself the love that you will give to others. Just show up for yourself in little ways, whether it is building good habits, going to the gym, going for a walk, talking to yourself. I talk to myself all day long.
All the time.
Voice memos, they have all the tea there.
Yes.
You know, just like taking the time to reflect. And I feel like when you're able to reflect, it allows for you to see what you want to work towards and just the places you want to be.
Yeah, I would also just say put yourself first. I know that with this topic, it's like everyone's so focused on others and how we can impress others and be social, but it really starts with you. And so I think that that's great advice. I think that you are the perfect person to have on here because it might not seem it, but we're literally just meeting and we're both just like social butterflies. So this comes easy for us to just chat. And that's kind of what I hope for everyone listening today is like you can go out, you can talk to a stranger, you can learn a lot about them and a lot about yourself.
Yes, for sure.
Awesome. Well, I'll definitely have to have you back on. Thank you guys again so much for listening, watching wherever you may be, and tune in next time.
Yes, and thank you so much, Reese, for having me.
Yes, of course. Bye.